Greetings.
Good morning.
Hello.
Give it till about 9:33.
Before you guys get started, just wanted to let you know this is my first ever SIG multi-cluster meeting. So I'm really looking forward. Thank you. I'm really looking forward to this.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. My name is Shri. I work at Intuit, and yeah, we have a huge Kubernetes setup, over 300 clusters, and yeah, I mean a lot of the things about multi-cluster is something I want to keep myself aware about, and maybe even be part of the community and maybe contribute in whatever way I can. So
Awesome.
I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, happy to have you here.
Thank you.
Welcome. All right, so it's 3 minutes after. Why don't we get started? So hello, everyone. I'm Jeremy Olmsted Thompson. It's February 2nd, 2021, and this is the SIG Multicluster weekly meeting. It looks like, Laura, you have the agenda today.
I have taken over the entire agenda.
You have indeed.
I've regularly been doing so. Sorry, everybody, but I will share a few things. Chrome, here we go. Yeah, so mainly I want to revisit basically what we were talking about last week. I think several people on the call were there then, but just to reiterate, we were talking about for the cluster ID KEP, when should we be targeting a release? There's apparently some discussions going on about 121 that we would sort of need to make some decisions about if we wanted to be like flagged for that. And this kind of spun off into a conversation about whether we wanted to pursue going in tree or a SIGs repo. So, and partially in pursuit of that question, but also generally to get the word out a little bit more about the KEP, I went to Cluster API's office hours last week and talked to them. And I also talked to one of the chairs of SIG Cluster Lifecycle, though their formal meeting isn't actually until next Tuesday. But in general, I'm getting the sense from the Cluster API sub-project and the KOps sub-project that something like this would be useful to them. I got some specific use cases from Cluster API The KOps case was like more tied to like DNS, but seemed like it would kind of be in our purview at some point, or at least like our implementation might be in their purview at some point. So I do think at a temperature level, I got the perspective of like, yeah, we would totally use your thing if you have a thing for this, and we have some needs for this type of thing. And I got some opinions, I would say, about Entry versus SIG's repo, but I would say that overall it was a little ambivalent about whether it's really required by any of these individual subprojects for it to be Entry, for it to be useful to them. So I only know a little bit from basically those opinions I got about whether, one is harder than the other. So I'm not sure that I have a definitive answer or like a resounding vote from the outside of like, yes, put this Entry or we won't use it. So I think that decision is basically still in our court. And so I'd like to see if I can figure out what we would need to do or what consensus we can come to make that decision if we need to imminently. And then I want to talk about the naming, but I think that's the main thing.
Awesome. I'm curious if anyone here has any thoughts on in tree versus out of tree.
Yeah, and does anybody have any experience, I guess, too, of either pushing something through or having troubles or not troubles using something that was Entry and core or not Entry? That might be worth knowing.
From my perspective, I think there's a lot of utility either way. I think it's pretty easy to build depending on a CRD that users would just need to install with whatever tool they're installing that uses it. I don't know if there would be any like core components immediately taking advantage of cluster ID. That would be a good signal for going Entry.
Yeah.
But if the goal is to have something that you can assume available in every cluster, obviously Entry built in is the easiest way to make that the case. I know there's also some discussion going on about how to not necessarily have something in tree, but still make it part of core Kubernetes. But I don't think that's really been solved yet.
Yeah.
Maybe it would be a good idea to reach out to some of the SIG API machinery folks.
Okay. And I did get one other piece of advice. If the point of kind of traveling to these other SIGs was to get more, community awareness, is there a stage, and potentially only if we consider going Entry, where we mail this out to like the whole Kubernetes dev list? Is that crazy?
No, I think you absolutely could do that.
Okay. Are we at that stage now, do you think, to get some opinions about this? Or I think the tip to go to API machinery with this might be the best next committee.
I would start there, I think, and get their thoughts, because that might also shut it down real quick. And
then we know.
Yeah, because I know we're trying not to pile on core APIs.
Right. Yeah, I had my understanding also through some of these conversations was that core is trying to split itself up a little bit more, and so we might be getting into the middle of that, I guess.
Cool. Yeah, why don't we also come back to this maybe after we talk about naming for a bit, because I think Paul's going to join shortly, and I'm curious what he thinks.
Oh, sure. Okay, so on the naming point, I brought this up to Cluster API and, got some in-chat joke answers about exciting names that would certainly not make the cut. But the sheet remains in its state. And we had said we wanted to kind of open it up a little bit to those groups, but then if it still stagnated, we could just start to actually have the discussion of, do we need to cut any of these off? And then what's the means by which I should initiate the democracy and get votes. So yeah, so I guess I think if we can, let me make this a little bit bigger, but I think if there's anything on this list that we need to like totally kick, there seems to be like a fundamental concept of long names versus shortened somehow is, but otherwise it's kind of no like major patterns of like difference between things from what I see.
Apologies
Yeah.
apologies if this is too basic a question, but are each of these supposed to be one CRD? Like so cluster claim is a CRD, cluster assertion is a CRD?
Yes, but this is a sheet to pick the one name for the one CRD that we're trying to make. But yeah, and as some background, since this is your first time, definitely sorry, but we're trying to create this CRD to store information about a cluster's ID, like giving it some name, and then also its membership in a multi-cluster setup. So in the KEP, we've been using the word cluster claim, but people feel lukewarm about that word, and or it also seems to be used in another context elsewhere in Kubernetes, which we don't like overloading. So that's where this process of trying to collect some other names came from. And we circulated it within our SIG for a while and some other SIGs for just a little bit, but it has been pretty even flavor here thus far. So.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for the.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah.
Is there anything we need to cut out, or should we just begin the democracy with these?
This is a very different list than when we did naming for cluster set.
Right.
You know, I was expecting at least one name that was kind of out there.
Yeah, cluster API said maybe something like Hydra, but put a K somewhere in there. That was the off the wall one from chat. So that was our one suggestion, but it didn't make it to the actual sheet.
Yeah, I don't know that there's anything here that that we really need to cut. Maybe just to shorten the list.
Honestly, I think we could cut cluster claim because
since everybody here doesn't like
that's
it.
That's so aligned with like name wise with something that is really different in Cube.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think we could cut cluster claim and maybe cluster attrib, because if we're going to go short, let's go short
all the way.
And then maybe it's just time to share this out. I mean, clearly nobody, either all of these are fine or or there's no real opinions.
Right.
Yeah, I think that sounds good.
Is this a majority rules thing? Is this like a ranked choice voting thing?
What we've done in the past is a SurveyMonkey send out to the SIG. And you could go broader. I can't remember if we actually sent it to everybody or not. We may have. That might, it's also a good way to get people interested, because hey, come give your thoughts on a name also makes people read the KEP. So yeah, that's probably just a good place to start. If some wild suggestions come in there, I think last time we added a suggest your own box, and if some wild suggestions come in, then we can always reopen the spreadsheet. And I think we did that once last time.
Did you have any issues with like not reaching anything close to a majority or even like a significant plurality?
No, it was a pretty clear winner last time.
I'm a little concerned with this one that it's so dry, I guess, that we may still not get a clear winner. But the only reason I bring that up is if we want me to structure the poll that it's not like vote for your favorite, but it's like rank them, And then we could actually do something like ranked choice voting or something if we wanted to later.
Well, I think if there's like a tie between a few of them, we could probably just pick one.
We'll just
In
break
this
the
group.
tie. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
That's fine. Sounds good. Sweet. Okay, well,
Cool.
I can make a Survey Monkey. And that sounds great.
Awesome. And then I guess
I will
circling
plan to
back to
send
the
it
first
to-
topic.
Yeah.
Paul, I was curious what you think too about, so it sounds like the SIG cluster lifecycle is pretty interested in a cluster ID concept and this cluster fact or whatever it ends up being called as well. Curious about your thoughts on in tree versus out of tree. If we want this to be something that, you know, other tools can assume is there and build on.
I guess my gut would be if we want it to be universal, ideally we'd wind up in tree, but I probably wouldn't start there. Not at least until it's beta. Just my own gut.
Cool. That makes sense.
I received like a sort of like, not offhand, but like very brief comment that like the process to go in tree and outside is like totally different. Is that, are we still in, would going all the way to beta still be the time where we can make that jump, or we don't know, or is that too late?
I think you can definitely make the jump
Okay.
at beta. I mean, another way to put it would be that going out of tree has a lot less process, and so you can kind of put the process off. I don't know that it's different process as so much as just there isn't process. We can kind of steer the ship in a SIG repo.
Okay, cool. I just, since I don't really know the process at all, then I don't want to accidentally get us stuck, you know, but sounds good. If we can make the hop at some point, then we can definitely punt on this decision. I was under the impression we kind of had to make the decision sooner.
If you want to be in tree and you want to like alpha in tree for 121, you need to make the decision basically this week.
Right.
But otherwise, you know, we could go alpha in a SIGs repo pretty quickly, and then revisit at the beta timeline. I do think it's probably worth checking with the SIG API machinery folks to see what they think, and, you know, what is there even appetite in the beta timeline for in tree, with the way things are going, trying to split out various components.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Sounds good. So it sounds like we're not in a rush to alpha and 121 in tree, and therefore we can wait, is what I got.
That's what I heard too.
Okay, cool. And then I will circle with API machinery and get their deets.
Sounds good.
Great. Well, that's that.
I guess on that note, though, what is left on cluster A, or aside from a name, I guess, from, well, what's left from calling it implementable now that we've got some feedback from other SIGs?
Yeah, I think just some stuff needs to be written into the CAP. There's some sections that I had put like comments from, or like unresolved from, some of which were related to implementable points that still need to be hashed out. So maybe what we can do to get that process moving is I'm going to open a new PR that like bumps the diff for those, so we can talk about it there too, but I'll also come with the digest like I've done in the past next week, so we can discuss IRL the things that we had kicked, because I think that's what is waiting, basically. So yeah,
Cool.
that's my take.
I think that sounds good.
Cool. Well, that's all I have then. And this was the me show today, unless anybody else has something.
So I've got one more
Good.
thing. I made a ticket to
nice.
create the work API repo. It got created. So we can begin to move forward on that work. And I don't think Chojin is here, or Valerie, or Rainbow Mango, but everybody in the group can just know that like we did get that step completed. So that unblocks us from doing the things we previously agreed to around translating Chojin's doc into a markdown and starting to put some code around this in Kubernetes SIG's repo. So it's
Very
Kubernetes SIG's work API, and there's nothing there yet. So you won't miss anything if you don't go and look in that empty repo.
Okay.
Awesome. Yeah, that's definitely nice to have. All right. Well, I think that's it for this week then. Thanks, everyone. Have a good week, and we'll see you next week.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
guys.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. See ya.